All right, wrap that up. Wrap that up and acknowledge your partner. Okay. All right, so we're now going to have a conversation about a critical aspect of living a life of integrity. Now, they're all critical, but we're going to have a particular conversation. So we're going to look at what it is that undermines your word to live true to and consistent to possibility. So we're going to look at what undermines your commitment to live true to and consistent with possibility. Consider that in the design of human beings, there are mechanisms that are designed to undermine our integrity. So when I say a mechanism, I mean like machinery, right? So there's part of our machinery of being human actually undermines our integrity. So this conversation is a conversation designed to give you access to that mechanism in a way that not only powerfully gives you the ability to give your word, but also to honor your word over time. So we've all had the experience where we've given our word to some possibility or to some agreement, and then somewhere along the line, it all fell apart. It just all seemed to fall apart. In our experience, it looks like we were sabotaged, or in some way we sabotaged ourselves. Yeah? So how many of you have had that experience? Okay, so consider no accident. Everybody raise their hand. That's part of the design of being human. Consider that's part of the design of being human. So you have to deal with what it is that undermines integrity if you're going to live a life of workability, freedom, and possibility. You got to deal with that mechanism. All right, so what is this mechanism called? So the mechanism has got a particular languaging to it, and it's two parts, and both parts come together. Okay, so the mechanism is called a perpetration withhold. The mechanism is called a perpetration withhold. So don't worry, I'm going to say what that is. So the mechanism that undermines our integrity always begins with a perpetration. So it always begins with a perpetration. Okay, so what do I mean by perpetration? A perpetration is something that you do that's wrong, and you know it's wrong for you to do it. And I'm not talking about the morality wrong. I mean, you do something, and you know it's wrong for you to do that thing. Or you do something that's not in agreement with your agreements, and you do it anyway, and you know it's wrong. So simply said, let me say that again. A perpetration is something you do that's wrong, or something you do that is not in agreement with your agreements, and you know that it's wrong. It's not a mystery. You're not unclear about it at all. All right, so simply said, a perpetration is something you and I do that we know is wrong. And the moment we do that, we completely destroy aliveness and possibility. So we know it's wrong, we do it anyway, and in that moment, aliveness and possibility are completely destroyed. Now, what's hard to get is that it's not our perpetrations that undermine our integrity. That's not the aspect that undermines our integrity, because you and I will, from time to time, do things that we know are wrong. As human beings, from time to time, we will do that. Or in some way are not in agreement with our agreements, or in some way destroy aliveness in ourselves and others. We will do that from time to time. So how many of you can actually see that in life you have perpetrated? You have done things that you knew were wrong. You did them anyway. Now, that's not a problem in and of itself, because why? Why is that not a problem in and of itself? You can clean it up. You can clean it up. The moment you do something you know you shouldn't do, you can clean that up immediately, but we don't do that. So they're a problem because this is where the mechanism kicks in. In the face of our perpetrations, rather than complete our perpetrations, what do?
We hide them.
Live in it.
We justify them.
Yeah, we live in it, but there's something even more damaging.
We make ourselves wrong.
You deny them, and how do you? And what's one way in which you deny them? So if you denied them,
Ignore the results.
Well-
Let them keep going on.
yeah. Well, do you tell anybody?
No.
No, you withhold. Okay, so that's the second part of the mechanism, and it's both parts that come together. That's the piece that's undermining. It's the perpetration, and not only do you do something you know you shouldn't do, you then withhold. You don't say anything about it. All right, so, and look, just get this in your as-lived life. Do you, in the normal relationship to integrity, especially from a world of morality, do you really want to clean up your perpetration withholds with people? Or perpetration with people? No, you want to withhold. It's like, I'm not going, no, They don't need to know. That's right, they don't need to know. They'll never find out. And it's the perpetration withhold mechanism, that whole thing together, that's the thing that undermines our integrity. So just get the logic of this. You and I have a perpetration. We're present to that perpetration. It's not like you don't know, like it's a mystery. So you're present to that perpetration. But given our design as human beings, rather than just getting that thing complete, we then withhold. We don't say anything about it. And in that moment that a perpetration withhold is created, our integrity is completely destroyed. How come? So rather than confront our perpetration withhold, so now have we done something we knew we shouldn't have done, we withhold it. Now what do we do? It was some of what was said before. You cover, well, that's part of the withhold. You cover it up.
Try to create on top of all that.
Well, you do try to create on top of that, which does not work. You know, you're creating on top of no integrity.
Justification.
You justify it. So now it's not even your fault. It's our fault. It's our fault. It's my spouse. Look what he did. Blah, blah, blah. So in the face of in our perpetration withhold, we create the view that someone or something else, it's not us, it's not me, they're responsible for your loss of power, freedom, and possibility. In the face of our perpetration withhold, we make somebody else the saboteur. They did it. We make someone else the enemy. We make someone else the reason why we broke our word. So what's inauthentic about our perpetration withholds is that we don't acknowledge what's so. Being authentic, you would acknowledge it. But we don't do that. What's inauthentic is we blame somebody else. We make somebody else the problem. And that they're the source of the whole thing. Okay, so now, are you getting are you squirming a little bit in your seats?
Yes.
You should be. Okay. Because look, why are perpetration withholds difficult for people to deal with? Yeah, it's uncomfortable. You know, so because to be able to deal authentically with our perpetration withholds, we would have to come face to face with that aspect of ourselves that isn't very pretty, and we would just really rather not look at.
All the time, too. Or you have to negotiate.
Well, when I got that, it may occur like that, and it is when it is, right? So rather than look at that aspect of ourselves, rather than look over here at ourselves and look at that ugly aspect of ourselves that we would rather not look at, it is far easier to look out there.
And the ugliness of others.
Well, as long as you don't have to deal, as long as you're not looking at yourself and you're looking out there, you never have to deal with it for yourself. That's why people are, just watch. Okay, if you look at yourself, but if you look in life, there's a lot of, why do you think there's so much blame and pointing the finger? You don't have to deal with yourself if you're pointing the finger somewhere else.
Oh, like self-blame.
Yeah. Okay, so now,
David,
yeah.
how about self-blame then?
How about self-blame? Well, what about that?
That's the same thing, if you're blaming yourself then for something.
Well, I don't know. You got to give me a real in your life. You got to give me something as lived.
Breakdown with business with my mom, or domestic violence issues with my parents.
Okay, but what's the perpetration and what's the withhold? Your perpetration withhold, not theirs.
Oh.
Yeah. So this is not for you to look at other people's perpetration withholds. You want to look at your own. Okay? They don't have perpetration withholds unless if they've done the forum and the integrity seminar. They don't have perpetration withholds. You do. That's where you want to be looking. okay? So that's more of the, I'm not gonna look over here, it's out there. It's those people. Okay, so confronting your perpetration withholds, however, creates an enormous opportunity. Now, if you actually have the courage to confront them, that is your access to actually bringing workability to those relationships, bringing possibility to those relationships. All right, now look, I told you how many, like I've led this seminar 7 or 8 times. I know this distinction, I've led this distinction, I've done this work many times, okay? So I'm on the plane, I was flying to Fort Lauderdale on Friday for my, I had a seminar leader workday that I was doing down there. So I'm like, okay, good, I'm gonna use the time on the plane to prepare, and so I pull up the manual and I get to this part, and which we're about to do. Okay, you're about to start to make a list of where you have perpetration withholds. I'm like, okay, I gotta make my list of my perpetration withholds. So the first thought I had was, guess what? What do you think my first thought was?
You don't have any.
I don't have any.
Oh, of course.
I don't have any. I certainly do not have any major perpetration withholds. I clean up my perpetration withholds.
I do not have it.
Justification, don't want to look. Like, okay, that's a bunch of you know what. So get out my notepad and, all right, let me see, let me just look. I wrote down a lot. It wasn't just 1 or 2. It was the thing I cleaned up with you earlier. It's about standards and ideals. That was a perpetration withhold. And part of the withhold is, so not only do I hold people to standards that they never agreed to, I withhold that I'm doing that, but I also withhold my love from people. And so it just creates this whole separation of I'm over here, you're over there. I'll do my part, you better do your part. You know, not a particularly
Words
powerful.
we never were told about.
Yeah, it's not,
agreements we
it's,
don't-
by you, I mean the royal you,
Right,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like the world. You know, so I just started, so then as I was doing this, and some of you will start to do this shortly if you're not already. Do you ever notice yourself in here getting very sleepy?
Yeah.
Great to see you, like really. You know, do you think that's accidental?
No.
If you find yourself being pulled to go to sleep, consider it is another form of, you just want to avoid it. You just don't want to deal with it. So what happened to me? I fell asleep. On the plane, like, oh my gosh, I am so tired. I cannot do this. I wrote down like 10. Like, I can't do this anymore. So I went to sleep. I was out, stone cold out. And then I wake up, I'm like, oh, okay, back to perpetration withholds. So,
No, it's still there.
but then here's this miraculous thing that happened. So one of the ones that I saw is with one of the other seminar leaders. And I realized it had been about a month, it had been at least a month since I talked to her. Now you gotta know, as a seminar leader, that's a really long time to not talk to another seminar leader, especially another designated seminar leader. And I just saw how I had been, the perpetration was I had allowed for there to be distance between me and her. And as a seminar leader, I have an agreement for there to be no distance. When I mean no distance, like nothing in between me and people, and I let something be in between us. And in the moment that I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, I have got to call her, you know, like right away. I'd call her tomorrow. So then here's this miraculous thing that happened. So like I said, I hadn't talked to her in over a month. Saturday morning, my phone rings. Who do you think it is?
Her.
It's her. And so I pick up the phone and I said, oh my gosh, I'm so excited you called. I'm so happy you called me. And what do you think she said? Now, there's some distance there. She said, you are? like surprised, like that I would actually be happy that she called me. I said, yeah, I'm really excited and happy that you called me because I needed to complete this thing with you. And then I shared the whole thing with her, and I could barely get the words out of my mouth. I mean, I was like sobbing on the phone because I was present to the impact that it would be for me to have anything going on with her. And it just got so complete in that moment. And what I said is, what I'm creating is the possibility of true partnership, that who we are, we're life partners. And she said, yeah, I've known you longer than you know your actual partner, which is true. I've known her for about 20 years.